Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this webinar hosted by Collaboard, Pexip, and Rocket.Chat. My name is Bart Schepers. I'm the sales director for Rocket.Chat in Northern Europe, and I will be your host for this webinar today. I'm happy to see that so many of you have chosen to be with us for the next 45 minutes. It seems there is a lot of interest in combining Rocket.Chat, Pexip, and Collaboard. So today we will do our best to share our vision on the digital sovereign workplace. And we will perform a live demonstration of Rocket.Chat, Pexip, and Collaboard driven by a real use case. So before we begin, I want you to know that you will receive the webinar recording at the email address that you provided when you registered for this webinar. We have a lot of people watching today, and I would like you to engage a little bit with us. We're going to run some polls, and you can ask us questions using the chat. So please take a moment to find the chat and let us know that you're here by sharing your home country with us. By the way, I'm here in the Netherlands. Since you're attending this webinar, you probably know that, especially in Europe, the need for a digital sovereign workplace is growing. And governments and commercial organizations wish to guarantee that communication with their citizens and customers will always be safe and will never be shared with third parties or with foreign governments. A digital workplace is much more than chat. So therefore, Rocket.Chat integrates with a number of tools that help our customers meet their needs. And you can find these integrations in our online marketplace. Today, we will show you how Rocket.Chat, Pexip, and Collaboard can be combined to support the concept of a digital sovereign workplace, replacing, for example, Skype for Business or Teams or Zoom. So with me in this webinar today are Michael Gurrick from IBV Collaboard and Michael Whittam from Pexip. So gentlemen, would you please go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Michael G, do you want to go first? Or?
Yes, sure. Hello, everybody. Happy that you're here. My name is Michael Gurrick, and I'm one of the co-founders of the Swiss online whiteboard solution. And I'm looking forward to show you some inspiring ideas how you can do your meetings in the future with these three tools together.
And good morning. My name is Michael W. So we've decided to separate ourselves with W and G, as we are both called Michael. But I represent Pexip and look after our Nordic organization inside Pexip. I've been with the company for over 7 years and working in collaboration for 15 years. So excited to talk about some of our solutions, the integrations, and the simplicity for end users today as well.
Thank you, guys. Michael G and Michael W. I remember that. Okay, let's move to the agenda of today. This is what the agenda looks like. We're first going to set the stage, talk about what's going on in Europe in general when it comes to sovereign collaboration, and of course, then we'll move on to the live demo. So before we move to the live demo, I think it's good to have a common understanding of why now is a good time to reconsider your digital workplace. As we all know, digital transformation and the availability of high-speed internet has enabled most of us to start combining working from the office with working from home or elsewhere. And this hybrid working has been around for quite some time and is considered the new normal. So I'm curious about everyone attending today. Would you mind sharing with us how many days a week you spend at the office and how many days you spend working elsewhere? Let's try to run a quick poll. Voting myself as well. Not sure if it's surprising, but thanks for sharing. All right. Especially when COVID-19 hit the world, lots of people were forced into hybrid working. However, most organizations and infrastructures haven't changed that much. Outdated legacy solutions like Skype for Business or outdated security and compliance requirements prevent us from working home efficiently. And next to COVID-19, we're facing a war in Europe. We face more and more cyber attacks. And we also come to realize that we have to be resilient when it comes to ever-changing important regulations, like the new upcoming United States Data Transfer Act. So as a European organization, you never want to be forced to share information about your citizens if you don't want to. So as you will see later on, with solutions like Rocket.Chat, Pexip, and Collaboard, you completely own your data and you will never have to worry about political changes that may affect public cloud providers like Office 365 or Google. So before we dig into the demo, I would like to share some insights with you from research done by the OECD, which stands for the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development in Europe. They have issued a report called The Future of Remote Work in the Public Service. I'm going to share the 5 highlights with you from this report, but please take your time to read it. I think it's interesting. So the first insight they're giving us, the first step towards a new digital workplace, is looking back to what has been learned during the crisis. Respondents from an interview in a number of European agencies say that they have learned that they can function with less command and control than before. The report also says that organizational productivity is not simply the sum of individual productivity. One example they're giving is, for example, in a software company where developers wrote more lines of code in a day at home than they did in the office. But then a few months later, when it came to combine all this code together into a product, productivity actually declined. In fact, they discovered that a greater number of hours was required to integrate all of the components that had been built in isolations. So the talks at the coffee machine can actually bridge gaps and spread information between groups. So this is the kind of interaction that is very hard to create online. And this is where tools like chat, whiteboarding, and video come into play. So even though you might think that these are just tools, they are important to keep productivity high in a hybrid working model. On to number 2. So looking forward to where the civil service should be in 5 to 10 years, the second step. This is actually a big opportunity for governments. And we have an opportunity to create a new, more attractive workplace, bringing in talent from across the country. I can share with you that one of the reasons that a Ministry of Defense in my region told me that applicants with a young family don't accept traveling to the military base or office each and every day. They wish to combine their work and private life in a more balanced way. So if you don't want to miss out on talent, a hybrid workplace is a must-have, even in the military. And then when it comes to designing a new balance, it starts with a multi-layered approach. So the report says it starts with individuals like you and me doing a job structured by rules, physical and IT infrastructure, and a working culture. But also think about the value of social interactions. Many of us work in teams. Different teams will have different working cultures, and they may find it nice to be together at least once a week to meet in person. So it's good to know that Rocket.Chat, Pexip, and Collaboard also support the concept of teams. You could use the team concept not only for organizational teams, but also for specific knowledge areas or even hobbies, like, for example, a company book club. The 4th step the report talks about is all about getting the buy-in for your new digital workplace. As with all workplace policies, engagement and co-design helps to catch blind spots. Think about surveys you can do among your colleagues. You can even use Rocket.Chat to do that, and by doing so, improving adoption of a new way of working. So within Rocket.Chat, we actually use a chatbot that frequently asks us to check in, how we feel, or share an idea, or praise a colleague. And the 5th step may be obvious. The 5th step, continuous improvement. There's always a better idea that should be tested, monitored, and adjusted continuously. So summarizing this report, it's obvious that redesigning a sovereign digital workplace is much more than just providing new tools. The time is now to redesign your digital workplace. You can't expect an organization to be just as efficient as before, just by offering an internet connection, a chair, and a desk. To actually mimic human collaboration that happens spontaneously when we're together, we need to start experimenting with new tools and with new ways of working. So the three of us, Rocket.Chat, Pexip, and Collaboard, we have been in this digital collaboration space for years. And today we've come together to show you how we can do online collaboration, starting in the chat, moving to a video meeting, and using whiteboarding for brainstorming purposes. So let's move on to the live demo, because I guess that's what we're here for. I'm going to switch to Rocket.Chat. And here we go. There you are. So you're looking at the homepage of Rocket.Chat. I think lots of the attendees have already seen Rocket.Chat, but this is the homepage. As you can see, I have adjusted the homepage to show the demo flow that we're going to show today. On the left side, you see the structure that we can apply to Rocket.Chat, consisting of teams, discussions, channels, direct messages. In larger organizations, it's advisable to connect Rocket.Chat to your Active Directory so that the entire structure is dependent on your Active Directory. So that's also what a lot of customers are asking us. How do we design Rocket.Chat using teams, channels, discussions, and direct messages? So feel free to reach out to us if you need any help designing this. So what we're going to do today is prepare a webinar. So the idea that we had was to show you how to use these three tools to actually work together on creating a webinar. So I'm going to start by creating a channel and inviting everybody who's involved in this webinar. I'm going to create the channel manually, but obviously in larger organizations, you could link Rocket.Chat to your project management system and actually generate a channel automatically once you create a project. But today I'm going to do it in a manual way. So creating a channel, this is what it looks like. I'm going to add a title for this channel, create a webinar. Let's see, this is going to be a channel that supports a project on how to prepare a webinar. The channel is by default private, which means that only the people invited to this channel can actually know about its existence and can see the contents. Therefore, it's very important for large organizations to link your channels to an Active Directory, so to prevent people from seeing the wrong information. Second option I can use is create this as a federated channel. So federation is kind of a technical topic, but it allows you to connect channels to support collaborations from one government agency to the other, so that you can make sure that only authorized people can work across organizational boundaries. Third option, read only. People cannot respond to messages. I can set it up as an encrypted channel, which means that even Rocket.Chat administrators cannot see the contents of this channel. And I can set it up as a broadcasting channel, for example, for a human resources department that wishes to tell you about new procedures or new ways of working. Right. So the channel is now created. And before we can actually start working on this project, I need to invite my fellow team members. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to invite Michael G and Michael W. So here is Michael G, Michael W. I'll add some more team members. Who's there? And a couple of other colleagues. Maybe the Swedish chef. Here we go. So before we start meeting about this webinar, I want to share some content. And let's go. So all the members have been added. And now I want to share some content. And this is an actual demo server, so it seems like we have a time lag. Let me see. This is actual demo, so I'm going to reload the server. See if there's a time lag only in the Netherlands. Here we go. There it is. All right, I'm going to share some content. I want the participants to read this ebook, How to Create an Amazing Webinar. There you go. Let's see, we've also prepared a whiteboard. We can create an empty whiteboard, but in this case, for this webinar, we've already created one. So we can start working on it together. Guys, ready, prepared. A whiteboard. Here you go. And assuming that my fellow team members have installed Rocket.Chat as a mobile app, I'm going to send them a notification so they will receive a pop-up message saying, hey guys, ready the channel. And here we go. So moving back to the home screen, what I've done now is I've set the stage, I've created the channel, shared some content, explained to my fellow team members what I'm expecting of them. I'm going to send out an invite containing a link to this channel, and we're actually going to start the video meeting. So I'm going to switch screens. Michael W. Can I switch screen to you?
Absolutely, please do so. So I'll take over the screen sharing here. And what the plan here is now is that we're going to shift from a non-verbal, non-visual interaction to a verbal and visual interaction. Now, one of the benefits of doing that is that in terms of body language and the visual element is that we're actually adding somewhere between what's been scientifically proven 63 to 80% of communication. So just by reading the body language of the participants that I'm going to actually join into the meeting now, what we'll be able to do is actually understand a lot more around how scared are people around this webinar. Are they happy to do it? Are they going to contribute to their parts of the webinar as well? So what I'm going to do is join into the meeting. I've launched a meeting within the channel. So everybody within the channel is invited. What we now see is that some of the participants are actually joining into the session. And first of all, Michael, are you excited? We're going to do a fantastic webinar together. Hi, Bart. Looking forward to creating the world's best webinar around sovereign collaboration solutions. I think we will need some help during this session. So what we'll do is that we'll actually bring in a few more participants as we actually go through the live demonstration, because all hands on deck will help. Now, one of the things that we're going to do as a large audience is talk about this webinar in very complex detail, but it might help if we can actually break off some of the participants so that you can focus on different parts of the webinar. So what I'd like to do at this stage is actually launch a breakout room. And the different way that you can actually initiate a breakout room is automatically or manually. You can select the different participants. What we're going to do here for the sake of time is that we're going to do some automatic breakout rooms, and I'm going to send everybody off into two different rooms. One room is going to talk about secure chat. Another room is going to talk about secure whiteboard. So what we'll do here is that we'll create the room. And what I see is that I've automatically allocated the different participants to the different meeting rooms or the breakout rooms. One of the things I can choose to do here at this point is also add a timer. So if I'm a bit worried that group one is going to talk for 5 hours and not come back with any input, what I can also do is set a timer to bring them back to this main auditorium. But what we'll do now is that we'll send you off into the different rooms. Let's see, we put Michael, we'll put you in group one, and we'll move Irena to group two. It's just, we can set these off. So now what will happen is that these participants will actually drop off and go into the different meeting rooms. Now, what's great is that I'm here by myself, so I'm not going to contribute too much to this webinar. But what I want to do is go and check on how the different groups are doing. What I see is the overview of who is in the different rooms. So let's drop into room 1 where Michael is and just see how they're getting on. So we click to join that meeting room. Here we can see Michael and the group. How's it going, guys? Everything good? Thumbs up, happy? Good. And what we'll do now is that we'll drop over to Bart's room and just check on how we're getting on with the secure chat side. So here is Bart with his participants. Everything going well, Bart?
Everything going well. Thanks for checking in, Michael.
Super. Okay, well, let's bring everybody back to the main auditorium so that we can move on with the planning of the webinar. So I close those meeting rooms, and then now everybody is returning back to the main auditorium. Now, typically, when you are collaborating in a meeting, what you will use in video conferencing is content sharing. Now, the principles of content sharing, they haven't changed much in the last 20 years. What we do in the technology stack is that we take images of the content sharing and we send them to reduce the bandwidth. Now, one of the problems here is that if I want to share my screen and think about real collaboration, and I need to first decide what I'm going to share. So I'm going to share this very small overview. What I can do is switch between the video and the content. But what I'm going to do is share this website. Now, one of the restrictions here is that I typically, as a presenter, when I'm sharing my content, is I talk about it. It leaves very little room for interactivity or co-creation or collaboration. It's very one way. So if I'm talking about a presentation or a PowerPoint, or even just scrolling people through the website that we have created for today's webinar, this all comes from me towards the audience, and it doesn't encourage much dialogue. So I don't really want to do that in a collaboration session. What I want to do is brainstorm with my colleagues about what's a great way for us to create this webinar. And in order to do so, what I will do is I'll hand over shortly to Michael G, to talk about the Whiteboard application. Before we do that, what I'll do is I'll actually launch the Whiteboard application from my video client. So here at the bottom, what you'll see is Open Collaboard. So what I can do is click on this link. It's actually opening on one of my many other screens. And I don't believe you will see this. So give me 2 seconds. I've realized what's gone wrong.
I'm seeing the pop-up, Michael.
Perfect. Thank you for rescuing me. This is live. 100 different things possibly could go wrong at once. We're using a webinar recording.
I see it as well.
Or did we lost Michael?
I think we did.
Okay, so then let me take over, because what Michael W wanted to show now is how you launch Collaboard directly from within Pexip. And then what we do is we jump immediately on the whiteboard. And in the next few minutes, I would like to explain you shortly what is an online whiteboard, so you get a better understanding what the tool is. And then we will see how to use it in the context we're addressing today. So basically how to create here the webinar. I'm seeing Michael, you're back. Bart, Michael, are you still with me?
I'm still with you.
Okay, and you can see my screen.
I can see your screen. Yes.
Okay, cool. Then let's continue. So what you're seeing here actually is the user interface of Collaboard. And to give you some context, what is Collaboard? What is an online whiteboard? It's basically a way to digitize the artifacts we know from the real meeting room, like the flip chart, the classical whiteboard, the blackboard, or even a complete project room. And you may have worked in the past in a project room where you had a lot of sticky notes on a very long wall. And the beautiful thing is, when you're using an online whiteboard, you can completely digitize that. In the end, if you work on an online whiteboard like Collaboard, you have an infinite whiteboard canvas you can work on. So when you see us brainstorming in a few minutes, we add just a few ideas. but in the end, you could have thousands of ideas, or as I said, complete projects planned here on the whiteboard itself. Now, besides these whiteboard functionalities, and you see Bart is already moving around here a little bit with the mouse. So that's a nice way of seeing the user presence of somebody else being on the whiteboard. And besides this whiteboard functionality, Collaboard also provides you a digital facilitator toolkit. Imagine you have a lot of people working on the same board. Then usually in a workshop, somebody is leading the meeting, being the facilitator. So Collaboard has here a lot of options for using a voting session, follow me mode, getting the attention of other people. So this is why we added here this facilitator toolkit. So you have the option to steer what's happening on a board. And when you start on a whiteboard, usually it's empty and you can do a lot of different things. And what I want to tell you here at the beginning is some ideas what our customers are actually doing with Collaboard. And one of the most prominent use cases is using it in online meetings, also in workshops for all these creative activities like brainstorming, mind mapping. So these are things the whiteboard is perfectly. And we also see that people start to do training session, new employee onboardings, and also this whole agile methodology that is coming more and more also to the public sector. That's something you can do easily in Collaboard, like digitize your Kanban boards, doing retrospectives, and so on. So the key message here is, as you start on a whiteboard, basically the sky is the limit regarding creativity and what you can do with that. So there are a lot of use cases where you can benefit from this visual way of collaborating. Now, I brought some examples, so just that you get some better ideas. And one example here is doing a virtual icebreaker session. As Michael W. was saying before, it's super important when you meet just remotely that we see each other. So we have the body language and we see the expression on the faces of the other people. And sometimes it can be very useful to also know a little bit more about the people you're working with. And one thing you can do here is some icebreaker games. And that's a super easy one where our attendees here just wrote down what they like to do in private. So, for example, we see here Melissa, who likes dogs, or Ingmar, who is a musician. And that's one example. Another example, what you can do with Collaboard is mapping and diagramming. So you see here on the left, I created a map with all the flags of the European member states. And this is completely glued together, so I can move this around, I can change that. And the beautiful thing here is that when you do this with Collaboard, it's super easy. So people don't need to have hourly trainings to get along with the online whiteboard, so they can start right away and do these mind maps, these diagrams, flow charts, and things like that. The third use case I brought with me today is a retrospective. So that's just an idea of the sailboat retrospective. In the end, it's super easy. Just give you one example. You think about the island, so basically the place you want to go, the goal you want to reach, and then you start to write down in a team on sticky notes, what do you need to do to reach that goal? And the last use case I brought with me is basically visualizations. So when we're working here on a digital whiteboard, we can also leverage technologies like digital pens, interactive displays. And if we work together like that, then that's very similar to when we're sitting together in the same meeting room, taking a piece of paper and a pen and writing something. So everything you do here is happening in real time. And this is what we are going to see right away, as we're still planning here the best webinar in the world. So I invite now Bart and Michael W. to coming to this region. So what I'm doing here is just getting the attention of all the people. And now we launch a brainstorming session on the title for our webinar. So you see now the other people are adding their sticky note, and I'm doing the same. And we're just writing here some ideas for a title. And while everybody is doing that, you see who is working on a sticky note. So for example, we see that Bart now wrote here this orange sticky note, awesome webinars, here's how, which I think is actually a great title. If we have a larger group or we continue doing that, we might end up with a lot of ideas. And it could be now difficult in a remote scenario to figure out which idea is the best. And what we're doing now is we're doing a short poll. So I want to know from the attendees we have here on the whiteboard, which title then should be the one we're using for our webinar. And by doing that, I'm doing the following thing. Here in Collaboard, we can start a voting session, and we say the best idea for the webinar. And now instead of just giving a lot of votes to people, we say, okay, let's do a star rating, meaning that everybody can decide if he likes an idea from 1 to 5 stars. So I'm starting that now, meaning all the participants here, they can start voting on the ideas. And as I'm the facilitator, I'm also seeing now the results of that voting. I'm taking that part as well, so you see how it works. But of course, I don't want to influence here the opinion of the group. Just adding some stars. And now, after we have done that voting session, people can let me know that they finished. So here I see, okay, everybody's still doing some stars, adding some stars. But we see now Manuela and Bart, they finished. So this means I will cancel the voting session. And that's not something we did not script. So it will be very interesting to see now which idea has won. And we see here that the idea, awesome webinars, here's how, is the best one. So this will become our title for the webinar. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to add here some ideas to brainstorm together and also to vote. Now, when we're planning this webinar, we also want to create some discussions. And what could be a good question to talk about, as we're having here now 3 tools like Rocket.Chat, Collaboard, and Pexip that have something in common. And what they have in common is, besides the integration, the part of security. So I prepared here one question I would like to discuss now with my colleagues. And the question is the following. So, where to host a collaboration solution to fulfill the security requirements of the public sector? And here we have 2 options. We say, okay, we have on-prem, or we have a local cloud provider. And it would be interesting to know now from Michael and Bart how they see it. What have you experienced in your existing customer project? When do people favor on-prem, and when do they favor local cloud providers? So what are your thoughts here?
Go ahead, Michael.
Firstly, apologies for the internet disruption at the end of my demonstration. But from my perspective, I meet lots of different customers, and I would typically say it really comes down to the customer preference. What we see from afar is that many public sector organizations, as well as government bodies, if they are limited on the number of resources internally, typically what they would prefer to do is consume this as a service from a local provider with local language and skill set to actually customize the solution to their requirements. If you're an organization with perhaps 1,000 or more public civilians working within the organization, then you might have a lot more resources to your availability. The only way to really guarantee that you fully own the data and that you have full control of it is with an on-premise solution that's not exposed over public internet to external bodies or parties. that is really the only way that you will safeguard that you fully own that data. But like I said, our local cloud providers are delivering local services towards the organizations as well. So we see a mix of different combinations being used.
It's easy to say. I see the same thing, Michael, but it's true. If I look at the customers we're dealing with, it's a matter of preference. But what you also see is that the larger organizations or government agencies, let's say over 5,000 users, they typically look for an on-premise deployment, whereas smaller or mid-size organizations are looking at local cloud solutions provided by local system integrators who can actually guarantee that the data stays within data centers within country borders. I hope that satisfies the question, Michael G.
Yes, I think these were some very good answers, and that's for sure a question we should then put into our webinar. So we have seen that we use the online whiteboard to brainstorm, also to discuss some questions just by writing it here. And now we need to take the next steps to plan the webinar. So I'm handing back to Bart for planning what we need to do next.
Yeah, let's move back. Thanks, Michael. Let's move back to Rocket.Chat where the process started. I'm going to share my screen again. Let's see. And here we are. Yep, live again. Here we see that Michael tried to text us. My internet just completely crashed, but it's good to have you back. Anyway, I enjoyed you using the whiteboarding, and to be honest, I think we should use it more often within Rocket.Chat as well. It helps to put some visualizations to the meeting, and it stimulates creativity. So I'm a fan. So let's use it more often. Anyway, to wrap up this process, we've just been in a meeting. We've been whiteboarding. If people join this channel afterwards, they can always look back. That's the fun part of a channel, that the chat history remains there forever, unless you decide to configure it in a way that it's automatically archived or removed after a certain period of time. So I'm going to put some actions here in the channel for my fellow team members. First, I'm going to thank you for attending. Hey all, thanks for attending. Maybe give them some actions. Go, here you are. Michael from Collaboard, please complete the whiteboard. This will lead to push notifications on their mobile phone, so making sure that they will see these actions. And let's go back to the home page just to do a quick recap. So what we've done is thought about an idea, we've created the channel, invited members. These members can be inside your organization or outside your organization, or you can configure Rocket.Chat in a way that your Active Directory synchronization makes sure that the channel is populated automatically. You've done an invite. You can use an invite using, for example, Outlook. We've been in a video meeting, the Pexip video meeting. We've done breakout rooms, got back together. We've done some brainstorming with Collaboard, and finishing up in Rocket.Chat where the entire history stays within this channel. You've seen a planned meeting with Pexip, but what you could also do, moving back to the channel, is use this ringer icon just to start an ad hoc meeting with your fellow team members, and then the Pexip dialogue starts again. And from within the Pexip dialogue, you can start whiteboarding again. So this is how the integration could work for you in a real life case. So I can see that some of you are asking questions in the chat. You can just keep on asking questions in the chat. But before we wrap things up, I would like you to know that we've put together an exclusive one-pager that lists all of the unique features of our three tools of Rocket.Chat, Pexip, and Collaboard. So let us know in the poll if you would like to receive this one-pager. Maybe it can help you to compare this combined solution with other tools out there. I'm giving you a couple of seconds to respond. All right. So at the beginning of the webinar, I've shared some insights with you from the OECD report. It states that IT is just a small but important part of a new hybrid digital sovereign workplace. And we also know that there's no single on-premise tool that can offer all of the features that you need. And that's why interoperability is so important. That's because we align with open standards. What Rocket.Chat, Pexip, and Collaboard have in common is that our tools can be deployed on-premise or anywhere you like, and are essential parts of a digital sovereign workplace, supporting collaboration as if you were in the office, or maybe even more fun. So after this webinar, let me share my last slide with you. Disable screen sharing. Here you go. Yep. So we're moving towards the end. You can stay in the call asking questions, of course. But I can also imagine that after you've seen these 3 tools in action, that you wish to meet us in person. So please put October the 5th in your calendar and come meet us in Stockholm at the Nordic User Forum. Last but not least, thanks for attending the webinar today. Thanks for the questions you've shared with us, and hopefully we'll see you in Stockholm. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.